Hello and welcome to TA for Traders. It's Monday the 25th of September. I'm Nigel Croft. In this video we'll be looking at two UK stocks and two US stocks. In the UK we'll start with B&M Value Retail, code BME, which is looking good technically. We'll then look at Ascent Resources, which is the code AST. That's back at support. Then in America we'll look at Apple. It came off quite heavily last week after the announcement of the Apple X and Apple 8 phones, and it looks like the Apple 8 is a great upgrade on the Apple 7, so sales growth is expected to slow. That hit the share price. It's slightly oversold. And then we'll finish looking at Carnival, the US cruise line operator. You'll see that it's got figures coming out today. The shares are looking vulnerable technically. Let's look at those charts. So starting with B&M European Value Retail, a bit of a mouthful. The code is BME, and you can see from the daily that we're breaking into new high ground. That is positive. It's also positive that it follows a golden cross on the 20 and the 50, and that it's accompanied by solid upside momentum. RSI in a nice uptrend. We can't say if there's been a non-confirmation yet. Yes, it did get to 77.5 on the high in August. 9th of August. But at the moment we're only at 65.76, but we haven't peaked yet. So let's see where that goes. But overall, technically, we've broken this short-term flag to the upside, and we're getting a big push up from momentum. And the MACD is also flashing a buy signal as the short moves above the long and above the zero level. Looking at the weekly picture, you can see the break to the new high ground. 20 did cross the 50, moving up. There's no 200 because it recently had an IPO back in when was it? Middle of 2014. So there's no 200 week yet. RSI is bubbling along at the top, showing solid momentum, 68.23. MACD are flatlining but well above the zero level. On the short term, looking at the 4 hour, you can see the break of the downtrend. Here we didn't have a golden cross on the 2050, but they will be the first support levels just at the 374 level and then the 371. Solid upside momentum from the RSI and a buy coming through from the MACD. So overall on BME it looks good. Moving on to Ascent Resources, it's drifted over the last week. It's coming back now to the support of the rising 20 and 50. This support does need to hold, or we're going to get the 20 roll very quickly. Although the ascent was high, the decline has been quick as well, and we're at the support. It does need to hold. On the RSI, we did have a slight non-confirmation, so that needs to pick up as well. Presently at 53.88, above 50, but if these moving averages don't hold, it'll slip below 50, and then we're likely then to pull back to the 2 level, which is the support of the longer term support from the 200-day moving average. MACD, which were looking positive, have now come back to flatline, so we're giving no sign there. On the weekly, you can see that we're in this gradual uptrend. Ignore the spike that we had, and you can see that we're kind of mid-range. A drift down towards 2 would see us find supports from the 20 week at 1.99, and then the 50 week below there is 1.88. So here it's kind of indicative that we may pull back there. Again, the RSI has had a non-confirmation and is presently 57.07. Here the MACD are still positive, but as we're towards the in the middle of the range, but expect a potential drift to the lower boundary of that range and those moving averages, and that 2 level does seem to be a magnet at the moment. On the 4-hour chart, again the 2 level comes in as the 200 moving average is at 2.04. We fell through the support of the 20 average, and we're finding support at the moment from the 50. But again, there's negative momentum coming through from the RSI. That's back below 50. Did seem to have a slight non-confirmation as well, and this drifting pattern. If this support doesn't hold, expect that momentum to pick up, and as I said, if this support doesn't hold, it will be down towards the 200 4-hour 2.04, and as we've seen on the other charts, the 2 level does seem to be calling out. Okay, moving over to the States. Apple, as I said, the iPhone 8 and X, although the X isn't coming out for a couple of months, but the 8 has not really inspired an urge for people to trade up, so they're expected to stay with the 7 and 6s and just wait to see if the new features in X are any good and whether they'll be incorporated in 6 months or in a year into the 9, or whatever number they're going to go with next, X1, whatever. Technically, we fell through the support of the 50-day, negative momentum coming through with the RSI, and we are now slightly oversold. The RSI is 33.51, so a short-term bounce would not be a surprise. Let's wait and see for the longer term picture whether the 50 rolls before the 20 crosses it. If it does, we could then see the creation of a downtrend, with this support down at the 144 142 level seen as very key, because by then the 200-day will have got to that level, the 142 to 4 level, and will be having to give support, which could be critical. On the longer term picture, you can see that support there at the down at the 142 level. If that doesn't hold, you could actually see a drift, maybe even down to 120s. Could happen, but let's wait and see. At the moment, we're finding support from the 20-week moving average. That's moving up at the 152.92 level. We are below it. If we can get back above there, that would give support. RSI, we did have a non-confirmation on the weekly. We're now drifting off down at 54, and the MACD just starting to shout a sell signal as well, so warning signs there. Moving on to the 4-hour, and you can see that again we've fallen below the support of the 20 and the 50 averages. Very solid downside momentum. RSI 33.51 again. Well, actually, this is the daily. What's happened here? Right. Okay. I'll just change this. Sorry, I was. Just need to change this to the 4-hour before I start talking about a 4-hour and looking at a daily. Right, sorry about that. So the 20s crossed the 50, moving down. No, it's just slightly moving up. So not a bear cross, but negative now that the 50-day is moving down as well. Surprised that we didn't find any support from the 200 4-hour. We're now below it. Momentum is very negative, and very much in a downtrend, although 25.86 we are slightly oversold. There'd be no surprise if we bounce up to that 200 average, which is presently at 153.23. MACD as well are shouting a sell, but as I said, there could be a short-term bounce, but it will be short-term. Okay, moving on to the last stock we're looking at today, Carnival Corp, the cruise line operator, coming out with figures today. The technicals don't look good. Look at the 20, cross the 15, a bearish cross. We had a non-confirmation on the daily on the RSI. Momentum is now to the downside, 35.41. If anything, expect some further downside. MACD shouting a sell as well. On the weekly picture, we've fallen below the 200-week average. The 20 and 50 did create a bearish cross again. The 200 will roll over. RSI negative, down at 35, just bubbling along the bottom, and MACD negative as well. On the 4 hour, again we've fallen below the 200. RSI bubbling along the bottom. Could it be a sign of an early recovery? I'm not sure. There's no non-confirmations there. We're getting lower lows. So there's no sign there yet coming out, and the MACD are still negative. So thanks for watching this video. Sorry about the Apple 4 hour being the daily, and I had to switch it and my computer was slow, but we got there in the end. So what we've looked at is B&M Value Retail, the code BME, and that's a positive technical picture. Ascent Resources at support. Apple again might have a short-term bounce, but Carnival Corp, be cautious ahead of the figures today. Many thanks for watching. Please remember these videos are my opinion and they're not an investment recommendation. Thank you.